What is going on, everybody? This is Clint with the Die Hard MMA podcast, and this is the total takedown for UFC Vegas 46. It has been so long since I've done one of these videos, I almost forgot to do it for you today because I am not used to being back on schedule. So here we go. If this is your first time tuning in and watching one of these shows, we are going over UFC Vegas 46 from a totals perspective. We're trying to find some alternative ways to make some cash. We are looking at overs and unders. How long do we think these fights are going to last, and how do we think they will finish, rather than picking a side? If you want to check out the full breakdown, I did that on Monday with a special guest. You can find that in the description below. Make sure you give me that thumbs up, sub here to Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. Let's dig on into this bad boy. First fight of the night. Now, we've had some shuffling done on this card due to cancellations left and right. So a lot of these things may be different. We may not have some totals at this point. We might just have to speculate. First fight of the night, TJ Brown taking on Charles Rosa. This is one of the totals that we are not going to have at this point to talk about because this fight just got booked. TJ Brown's opponent pulled out. Now we've got good old Charles Rosa coming in here. So TJ Brown is a fighter who has solid wrestling, but doesn't really rely on it the way that we're used to it anymore. Charles Rosa is a jiu-jitsu fighter who can finish anybody on the ground. However, he doesn't really have the wrestling to go with that jiu-jitsu game. On the ground, it's all TJ Brown. Charles Rosa is not a guy who is able to strike with the type of opponent that TJ Brown is, in my opinion. I'm kind of expecting a 2.5 here in this spot, mostly because Charles Rosa is a tough guy to finish. He's hard to get out of there. There is some finishing upside from both fighters. We've seen TJ Brown get cracked before. We've seen him wobble a couple times before. I believe he's also tapped out, and he's got that offense. He's a significantly better striker than Charles Rosa is in this case, but if he wants to rely on that grappling, he may just wrestle his way to a victory. I would kind of expect the total to be sitting at 2.5 here, and I want to say that I would maybe lean under, mostly because TJ Brown was training for a striker, a high-powered individual who's going to trade with him on the feet, so he might be sharp and looking to strike, and if that's the case, I don't think Charles Rosa is going to have anything for him. I think Rosa is not going to be able to get TJ Brown to the ground where he's going to have some kind of an advantage. TJ standing is going to be able to do whatever he wants on Rosa. With that chin, we could see a club and sub from Rosa. We could see him get clipped and knocked down, and then Rosa get on top and maybe try to work his grappling that way. Lots of questions on this fight. Probably not one I'm going to bet from a totals perspective, but again, we're speculating because we don't actually have a number to work off of. I will say I expect the thing to be at a 2.5, and I'll probably lean ever so slightly to the under. Featherweight fight coming up next, Brian Kelleher, Kevin Croom, another one that is a late replacement here. Boom, lost his opponent. Now he's getting Kevin coming in here. I would totally expect an under in this position. You know, Kevin Croom is an all guns blazing type of fighter. He's got slick jiu-jitsu, and that's kind of been the weakness for Brian Kelleher, is he's been submitted several times. Even though he's a solid grappler himself, he seems to get caught in transitions every once in a while, and that's exactly where Kevin Croom has the opportunity to shine. So on the feet, I'm going to say Brian Kelleher is the better striker. He's got more pop in his punches. Kevin Croom, he got completely outclassed by Alex Caceres. Not comparing Kelleher to Caceres. They've got completely different striking styles. But that's the kind of thing where you can see that's a hole in Croom's game that I think Kelleher might still be able to take advantage of. Now, if this thing does hit the mats, I think Brian Kelleher is totally live to get the submission win over Croom. Croom has given up some subs himself. Brian's got that tight squeeze. So probably a total, again, maybe set at 2.5 for this one, considering it's a lighter division. And then once again, I will lean to the under. Court McGee taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. This one we actually have a total for. It is set at 2.5. The over is -180. The under is +140, it looks like. And this is a dead over, in my opinion. Court McGee is one of the most durable fighters we have ever seen in this weight class. He's not a guy that goes down easy. Ramiz Brahimaj, even though he got his ear exploded, he's not someone who's been TKO'd on the feet before. He's got that finishing upside with the submission grappling himself. But you don't submit Court McGee. Nobody has. I don't think anybody will. So basically, we're going to see a wrestling match or a point striking type of fight. I'm fully expecting this thing to go over, and -180 honestly seems a little bit cheap. Jamie Pickett taking on the ugly man, Joseph Holmes. What a fight name that one is. I always gotta wonder, usually your teammates and your gym mates are the ones that pick your fight name for you. Like, what? If your bros are the ones that think you're ugly, like, how bad? Okay, anyway. getting off on a tangent here. Total set at 2.5. This thing is a pick'em. We got -110 on either side. And this is a spot where I would be tempted to rely on Jamie Pickett's durability. This is a guy that, now I know people see that loss to the Beverly Hills Ninja and they think he's chinny, they think he's not that durable, they think he's not that tough. But if you watch any one of his other fights, this guy takes the kitchen sink. And while Holmes is an exciting prospect, he's never fought anybody this level caliber of competition. He's never fought anybody that's a true blue proven UFC caliber fighter. And on top of that, I don't really like Joseph Holmes striking. I don't think he's got much there. I don't think he can get the kind of pop on his punches that it's going to take to hurt somebody like Jamie Pickett. What we do maybe have for a finish is the grappling. You know, both these guys are BJJ brown belts, unless I'm mistaken. Joseph Holmes has a lot of subs on his record. That seems to be his go-to move to finish these fights. But Jamie Pickett is a solid wrestler. He's a guy that likes to pin his opponents up against the fence to grind that clock off. He's been relatively solid on the ground. He can stuff people and stifle their offense from that position. So I don't know that Holmes is going to be submitting Jamie Pickett. I mean, I could be completely wrong. This is a pretty low-level matchup, but I kind of feel like these guys are going to end up in a staring match, in a grinding match. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, cage control, standing grappling as opposed to ground grappling, and I do think this one ends up getting over. So over 2.5 at -110, that's the way that I would be looking for that fight. We're on the main card now. Bill Algeo taking on Joanderson Brito. This is another spot that we are waiting to hear if maybe this one could be potentially pulled. I'm really hoping it doesn't, but apparently Joanderson Brito's cornermen have tested positive for COVID. They're trying to make sure that he is clean and see if we can still get this fight off here. He's coming off Dana White's Contender Series, making his UFC debut against Bill Algeo, someone who I believe is 1-3 so far in his UFC run. Total set at 2.5. Over is -160. The under is +140. And I do like that over. What we've seen from Brito is that he's everything explosive, everything power, not so much technique, just relies on that physicality to get things done. Against a guy like Bill Algeo, someone who's got a good get-up game, someone who's defensively solid, someone who is very hard to finish, a BJJ black belt himself, like, I don't necessarily see Brito flash KOing this guy. Like, it could happen. It's MMA. That's a thing that we see every single week. But I think he's slick enough that he'll be able to hang in there with someone like Brito. I mean, Bill Algeo, he made his UFC debut against Ricardo Lamas, someone who's incredibly much higher level than Brito. So it would only be that rough, gruff power shot that put him down, the explosiveness of Brito, that would be the thing that got him, not anything technique-wise. So I think this is probably headed for a decision. I would be looking at the over 2.5 at -160 in this spot. It gets a little bit hairy in that third round, though, because we have seen Brito gas out and slow down. Someone like Bill Algeo, I think he's live for that third round sprinkle. I'm going to have one of those myself. So I'm not touching this total from a betting perspective because I have bet Bill Algeo. I am sprinkling that round 3, and that 2.5 is right on the line of where I think this fight is probably going to finish. Because if Brito does hang in there with Bill Algeo for 10 straight minutes, he's going to be exhausted in that third round. And Bill Algeo is the type of guy that uses his cardio as a weapon. I fully expect him to go ahead and get that finish in the third round once Brito isn't able to hold him down anymore. So I'm going to say over, but I'm not at all confident in that on this one. Dakota Bush taking on Viacheslav Borshchev. I have no idea how to say that guy's full name. I'm definitely going to be listening to the King John Anik on Saturday for how to pronounce this man's name. Total set at 2.5. The over is +150. The under is -170. And I would be looking towards violence myself in this one, but -170 seems really stiff. I don't know that I like that. It is a lightweight fight. We know lightweights finish at a regular clip, so I'm not too surprised there. Dakota Bush, slick grappler. If he can get this on the floor, then he's definitely going to have an advantage over here. But Slava is a world-class kickboxer, the striking coach for Team Alpha Male. You expect this guy to be able to do whatever he wants on the feet. But Dakota Bush is tough. He's one of these never-say-die type of fighters. I could see him kind of zombieing his way through and absorbing a ton of punishment from Slava before he really quite gives in. I also could see Slava leg kick this guy 4 times and then put him down with a head kick right afterward in the first round. So I'm going to say violence, I'm going to say under, but it does seem a little bit pricey for that 2.5. Save some time here. Katlyn Chookagian taking on Jennifer Maia at women's flyweight. This is the most dead nuts over you've ever seen in your entire life. Over 2.5 is minus 380. Under 2.5 is plus 315. You don't finish Katlyn Chookagian unless you were the queen Shevchenko herself, and Chookagian ain't finishing anybody. So we are going to see a 15-minute track meet between these two. Katlyn will use her range and her distance and kia safely from 10 feet away. Jennifer Maia is not going to be able to catch her. If Jennifer can, she will probably put her on the mat. And if she can keep her there, I don't think she's going to be able to submit her. I think it'll mostly be a ground control type of situation. I'm saying over. Co-main event, flyweight fight, Brandon Raw Dog Royval, my boy, taking on Rogério Bontorin. A lot of my read for this fight really hinges on the weigh-ins. I'm waiting to see what these guys look like on the scales because Brito has a tough time with that weight cut. I want to see him looking bad on the scales so I can bet Brandon Royval with authority. We've got a total on this one set at 2.5. The over is plus 150. The under, once again, minus 170. And that makes sense. That makes total sense to me. Rogério Bontorin is a guy that comes forward really compact, really explosive. He hits hard. He wings big punches. And then on the ground, that's really where he shines. He's got a high-level BJJ black belt. He flows really well. Good submissions, good body lock, ground control. Brandon Royval is chaos incarnate. This guy scrambles like nobody I've ever seen. So even high-level BJJ practitioners, someone like Bontorin, struggle with holding this guy to the ground because you just can't quite stay one step ahead of him. On the feet, it's the same thing. He's a whirlwind of knees and elbows, and you never know where that next strike is coming from. Rogério Bontorin, questionable gas tank. Brandon Royval cranks that thing up to 11 the deeper the fight goes. So I think one of these guys is going to get cracked. We've seen Brandon Royval rocked on the feet and hurt. We've seen him submitted. We know my guy can be finished. Rogério Bontorin on the flip side of this thing, big questions on that gas tank. If he can't get Royval out of there, I think Royval gets him late. So again, a little bit pricey at the minus 170, but the only way I could look on this fight is violence. I don't expect this one to make the judges' scorecards. We've got, I misspoke. The co-main event is actually Jake Collier and Chase Sherman, which is interesting. I kind of forgot that fight was on this card, if that tells you anything. But I think they should reverse the position of these two. Royval and Bontorin should be the co-main event. That's going to be a hell of a fight, not this one. I know they like the heavyweights, but come on, UFC. All right, let's talk about the real co-main event here. I guess total set at 2.5. The over minus 175. The under is plus 155. And I get that. I get that they lean to the over on this one. Jake Collier, since he's made his return, he's a volume guy. He doesn't really have that heavyweight knockout power that you want to see, but Chase Sherman is the X factor here. Chase Sherman does have that heavyweight knockout power. He's got that nasty calf kick that can put people down. And on top of that, he does not have a chin. So there is an opportunity from Chase Sherman to finish or to get finished either way in this fight. And you best expect he has got to get a win if he wants to keep his job. I expect him to come out urgently. I could see this fight ending in the first round, old school Chase Sherman style, even though that's not what we're used to seeing from Jake Collier. What we've got as a total at 2.5, and honestly, as much as I think this may be almost a little bit trappy, the under 2.5 at plus 155 is maybe a little bit of value. You can see they opened up this line about even money, about plus 120 on the under 2.5, and it's been bet all the way up to where it is now. So the bookmakers think that it's about a 50-50 for this thing to make it to the judges' scorecards, and the market has told them that it's going to decision. I tend to think that maybe the bookies were a little bit right in the first place, and they probably have a half-decent shot for this thing to end quickly. Main event time, folks. Calvin Kattar taking on Giga Chikadze. And this is such an interesting fight. I mean, for such a flat card, this fight right here, this one is awesome. So, Giga Chikadze, they moved it on me. Sorry about that. I'm trying to find it for whatever reason. I like to use best fight odds for the lines for all these things. That way I can see the entire market and I can kind of tell you where these things lie across the market rather than just one specific book. But they have moved this particular fight off the right page, so I'm not sure where we're at. Looking at, I'll use DraftKings, I guess, as a source here. Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. We've got total set at 2.5. The over is minus 175. The under is plus 145. So 2.5. everyone's used to Giga Chikadze doing what he does at this point. Everybody is used to him just body kicking the hell out of people and getting them out of there. He's an absolute warrior. I love this guy. Calvin Kattar, everyone's so down on him because of what happened to Max Holloway, and I think we've maybe overcorrected on where the kind of person that Calvin Kattar is. And if nothing else, he's durable as hell. So this is a spot where I actually like the over 2.5. Minus 175, again, a little bit pricey, but I absolutely see this fight completing those 3 initial rounds. I think we're going to get to the championship rounds. These are both guys that are headed towards that title picture, and they're going to get that 5-round experience. Calvin Kattar's already been there and had some 5-round experience. He didn't wilt against Max Holloway, even though he took an absolute beating in that fight. And I kind of expect he's going to have that same toughness and durability to hang in here. He took a whole year off after that fight. I don't expect him to be compromised. I think he goes to war here with Giga Chikadze, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys got finished late. I'd be looking at like round 4, round 5 type of sprinkles. So I kind of think it's over 2.5, but also fight doesn't go the distance seems right as well. I think this thing's going to end late. That's the read, folks. That's the total takedown. Good luck on all your degenerate action. I will see you tomorrow for the first undefeated post-weigh-in show of 2022, and I can't wait. That's my favorite show of the week. Let's freaking go. Let's roll. Good luck.